Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's, the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com.
And it's Christopher here with you tonight. By myself, Eric is not able to join us. October 15th, 2009, broadcasting live from the internationally famous C&E Studios, Greensboro, North Carolina. A dreary day here in North Carolina. A beautiful day nonetheless. Fall. 3 weeks into it officially. And it's quite chilly. It's about 52, 54 degrees, something like that, and cloudy and patches of drizzle here and there. So it's making it a little bit difficult on the few tailgaters that actually have made it out. Doesn't sound that cold, but considering Tuesday it was a high of 75 and warm and sunny, Wednesday it drops off a high of 50. A 25-degree difference is quite chilly. So anyhow, we're here. I'm here. And as I said, Eric is not with us today, but if you would like to call in, you can at 646-716-6928. You also have the ability to go to blogtalkradio.com/incoherent ramblings, where you can do a click to talk feature, which will gain you access to free VoIP provided by Blog Talk Radio at no charge to you. You can also at that website you can find a couple different things about us. You can find our actual show webpage, information about our MySpace, Twitter, Facebook accounts. If you haven't joined, feel free to go and join any of those. You can also go to iTunes and sign up and subscribe to our channel and download each week. Just if you set it to subscribe, each week we'll go download it for you as soon as it's available. And it'll just go and get it for you automatically. Don't have to do anything. It's an automated feature, and that is free of charge as well. I see we have been joined by our UK correspondent, stuck in the 70s. Hello. Glad to have you with us today. I think you may have missed the part where it's just Chris, no Eric. Eric actually, let's see, how can I put this? Eric purchased a new home. I think he mentioned it last week. Purchased a new home, and the house he's moving from is on the market. Actually going to be sold. It's going to be sold very soon. And he basically was really worried last week. I know for those of you who are stuck in the 70s who was listening live, and those of you who downloaded it and listened to it later, he had to take several phone calls during the show, and we had just a little bit of chaos, but we made it through it nonetheless. But he's kind of under the gun because the house he's moving from, he has to be out of that house in less than 2 weeks. The house he's moving to, structurally is sound, but had a little bit of work he needed to get done. He needed to sand and refinish the floors and fix the HVAC. I believe he needed to paint, do some work on the kitchen cabinets, some appliances, stuff like that. Once he's done with that, he's moving in. Yes, and yay for Eric. He was very worried about that last week because he was afraid he was going to be homeless. Of course, that is quite ridiculous. I'm just sharing that with everybody here now because I have a guest room here in my house that he would have been more than welcome to use. I know two other friends of his that have said he could stay with them. My parents, about 8 miles from here, they have a home, and they have a full basement. It's got a full kitchen, a large bedroom, a large bathroom with a jacuzzi, separate from the part of the upstairs where they live and spend the majority of their time, where they said he could stay there free of charge too until he got things figured out. So, but nonetheless, he was being a little dramatic with saying he's going to be homeless, but he was definitely under the gun. So, very pleased that he was able to get closed on that house, and is going to get he's working on it as we speak. He's sanding the floors, he's stripping the cabinets. He is a very busy man, and we definitely understand his absence tonight because he's got a young daughter that he needs to provide for, and he feels that he needs to get this house in shape before he moves in. So it's a nice house. It's got a full basement. It's quite large. I think it's about 3,200 square feet. So it's got the room that he was looking for, so he can have his home office there, as well as a separate bedroom for his daughter and him, and different things like that. And we have just found out from our UK correspondent that actually, if he didn't mind the commute, he's got a shed that he could go over to the great country of Britain and stay in there. So he's got multiple options as far as a place to stay. That's funny. So for tonight, you're stuck with just me, and when I originally came up with the concept for the show, I originally was going to do this by myself many years ago. Back in 90, I believe 93, I had an online radio show. Somewhere between 93 and 96, I had an online radio show. Short-lived, 3-4 months. Completely different technology. Not nearly the quality provided by Blog Talk Radio, that's for sure. Nonetheless, I kind of did that by myself for a while, and a friend of mine joined me for a few shows, and then it just became kind of a conflict with some different stuff I had going on at that point in my life, and I kind of dropped it, but I actually had quite a few listeners at the time, and I have no problem filling an hour of radio by myself, just incoherently rambling, and that's why I chose the name for the show. But it really makes it better with Eric. But Eric and I have been friends since '93, so we have over 16 years, about 16 and a half years in our relationship there, and we have good chemistry to bounce off of each other. We play off each other well, and Eric's a funny guy, has a great laugh, and so while I'm perfectly fine doing the show by myself, it's a little bit odd because I'm kind of used to Eric being here to my left here in the studio. Tonight is the 38th show, and of the 38, he has done 36 with me, so this is only my second flying solo. So, there you have it. You're stuck with Chris. And I will absolutely do my best to ramble. I've got quite a few stories. I have a rant or two. I always have a rant. You guys miss out on a lot of my rants because we try to keep our show positive. And obviously rants generally aren't positive, but people tell me that I usually am entertaining in the way that I deliver them. So anyhow, if we need time to fill, or if I just kind of get off on a tangent, then so be it. I'm just going to kind of wing it as I go tonight. So I have a sip of water. we'll have a little dead time on the show, because generally I sneak me a sip of water while Eric is speaking, and I don't have that tonight either. We like to start off with a little bit of good news, and the good news is hard to come by. There for a couple weeks, there was 2, 3, 4 stories that were really, story of heroism, people defying odds, insurmountable love, things of that nature, and the good stories are they're hard to come by the past 3-4 weeks, but this one really kind of caught my attention, and I thought was very an awesome gesture. Gloria Estefan, multiplied millions of records sold. I believe, let's see, has she won some Grammys? I don't know, 7? 7 Grammys. So quite popular, and obviously rewarded financially for her popularity. She just really did something this past week that I thought was a very good gesture. This comes from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Thousands of laid-off government employees in Puerto Rico will be doing the conga for free thanks to Gloria Estefan. The Cuban-born singer bought some 2,000 tickets for her weekend concert, and they will be distributed by raffle among the nearly 17,000 workers who learned last month that they will be losing their jobs beginning November 6th. 17,000 people. That's devastating for that many people at one time. For the government employees for a country that is that small. Stefan bought all the remaining upper-level tickets at $40 each as a gift to those who were affected, her manager said. Officials have begun distributing the tickets to various government agencies, which will raffle them. The government announced the layoffs in late September as it tries to close the gap on a $3.2 billion deficit. The U.S. territory is struggling with its third year of recession, with a 15% unemployment rate, and that is higher than any state here in the United States. Tickets to hear the 7-time Grammy winner sing Saturday range from $40 to $125. Almost 8,000 tickets have been sold so far. So definitely some income from that already. So good for Gloria Estefan. I'm not a personal fan of her music, but she's always seemed like a classy lady, and she has proven that here by this nice gesture. So I say my hat's off to her, and that is the best good news story I could find this week. Actually, I didn't announce this when I first got on the call because I didn't know if it was going to happen or not, but Eric did tell me that he was going to make an effort to actually call into the show live on location, we will say, from the new house, and he has dialed in. I see that he has his hand raised, so we are going to bring him on the air for a few minutes. Eric?
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Eric, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic, and yourself?
I'm doing fairly well tonight.
Well, great. I loved your good news story about Gloria.
Yeah, isn't that a nice gesture?
I had a good news story. I don't know if it's good news or not. About another Grammy Award winner, Michael Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yep. His burnt hair is up. His burnt hair is up for sale.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, it's good news for somebody who's looking for some singed hair. From a rock legend.
I mean, generally,
if somebody's looking for some good Christmas shopping ideas or something,
if you're looking down your Christmas list and it says burnt hair
from deceased rock star,
yes, from deceased rock star, then there you go.
There you go. Now you know where to get it.
You do.
Singed strands of Michael Jackson's hair that were burned in a Pepsi commercial are coming up for sale.
Yep.
They were collected by Ralph Cohen, an executive producer of the commercial, who took off his coat to put the flames out on the singer's head. Jackson was said to have fully recovered from the second-degree burns, and an autopsy reportedly showed he was almost bald. So, not really a good story, but I thought it went along with your Grammy Award-winning story.
It did. Someone who had several Grammys himself.
Yeah.
Sold a few albums.
I did have another good story. Truly a good story this time. Boy 9 rescues 7-year-old from deer. This comes from my home state of Ohio, Wintersville, Ohio. Happened October 3rd. A 7-year-old was attacked by a deer during a game of backyard football and was rescued by a stick-wielding 9-year-old, authorities said. The male deer was on his way to fight with another buck Saturday afternoon when he came across Brandon Hiles, 7 years old, playing football with friends in Steubenville, Ohio. There were 2 young bucks in the same area. One child got in between the two, and the deer basically attacked him, and he was rescued by a 7-year-old with a stick. I'm sorry, a 9-year-old with a stick.
Yeah, the deer, I believe, the deer at this time are in rut, so maybe a little hormones running wild there.
Right.
That was quick thinking by the other one to go to get a stick.
Absolutely.
And I heard in the version that I have, I heard that he beat the buck out of him.
That sounds like something stuck in the 70s would say.
Oh my goodness, that was lame. I'm sorry.
I do have one more thing on my Christmas list that I saw went up for sale that I thought you might enjoy.
Okay.
I might get it for you, but it might ruin your surprise.
Oh my goodness, I don't know if I want to know about that.
It's an action figure of Obama.
Oh yeah.
And Michelle too.
Huh?
And Michelle Obama as well.
Well, I don't know. That might be overload of things.
We might save that for Easter. All right, Chris, I might call back in a few minutes. I got to walk into Lowe's.
Okay.
My home away from home.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll catch you later.
Okay, bye. There we go. Eric, my trusty co-host, was able to call back in, and he sounds like he may try to do it again here soon. I'm glad that he called in because he had a good story there, a better spin on it than I had about the deer going wild. But that was very quick thinking by the young man to take the stick and fend off the hormone-crazed deer, and thankfully no true harm was come. He did have a little bit of a gash and some bruises, but nothing serious. So good news there from Eric's home state of Ohio. I have a story. You know, this is a good story in the fact that it's funny. At least I think it's funny. And then, in addition to being funny, I guess whenever you have a quote in the story of "It's a miracle he wasn't badly hurt," this sort of thing can end up killing you. I guess the end result is good that, you know, much more damage wasn't done. But this is kind of tied into a story that we had several months ago. True story. For those of you who have been listening, you'll remember it. It was in Germany, and this is in Germany too. This guy was found passed out drunk on a train track where the train ran over him. And thankfully, because he was passed out drunk, he stayed down, because if he had set up at any time, he would have been killed instantly. Train ran completely over him. It finished. Someone saw him on the track. They helped him up. He was all dirty and dusty. Short story is, drunk person, Berlin, Germany, and trains. Well, here we go. We're going to tie it right in. This deals with someone who was in Berlin, Germany, and is a train track. Whether or not he was drunk, I don't know, but I would have to assume there's a very good chance that he was, and I think you'll agree with me when you hear the story. Berlin, Germany. A German man mooning railway staff in a departing train got his trousers caught in a carriage door and ended up being dragged half naked along the platform out of the station and onto the tracks. The 22-year-old journalism student shoved his backside against the window of a low-slung double-decker train when staff forced him off. And Lowenbrock, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, for traveling without a ticket, a spokesman said. It's a miracle he wasn't badly hurt. This sort of thing can end up killing you. Instead, dangling by his trousers, the man got pulled along for about 200 meters, all the while managing to keep his legs away from the wheels of the train. The ordeal ended when a passenger pulled the emergency brake. Rescue services were called in, causing rail service between Bremen and Hamburg to be suspended for over an hour, delaying 23 trains. The man, unharmed except for cuts and bruises, now faces charges of dangerous interference in rail transport and insulting the train staff, and may face a sizable compensation claim for the delays he caused. He was full of remorse when I talked to him, the spokesman said, and he advised others not to try the same thing. You think? Seriously. They don't say anything about drinking, and it sounds like maybe this was just a prank. But I think it's very safe to say he was intoxicated, because why else would someone try such a ridiculous stunt? But he at least had the presence of mind to keep his legs out of the way, which I think is probably what saved his life, because that no doubt would have ended very, very badly. So I found that to be a kind of a funny story, and it kind of tied into another Berlin, Germany story that involved trains and 20-some-year-old men that may not be the brightest. I don't know. My parents, when I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida, my parents instilled the fear of several things to me. And one was obviously vehicles. Be careful when you're in the streets. I wasn't even allowed to go out and play by myself until I was of an age and size where they thought it was safe. And another thing, other than just cars, my father explained to me about trains. And he's like, if you go to the train tracks, that's fine. He's like, but it's really not the best place to play. You could trip. You could knock yourself out. You could get your leg stuck. He says, really is, and I don't know why. Why are we drawn to it, especially boys? I mean, I know girls do it too, but come on. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to the train track and throw rocks and try to ride my bicycle on the rail, stuff like that. Who knows? But my father really instilled in me a fear and respect. And if the train was anywhere around, trust me, I stayed away from the tracks. And a large object moving that fast with that much force, I think that only makes sense. So, short story, stay away from the train track. And if you're going to moon the passengers on the train, maybe keep enough space between you and the train where your pants don't get hung up in the train and you get dragged along for the ride. So the story there I found quite amusing. Here's a story. I don't think I think anybody that listens to this show will realize that I'm not a fan of socialism. It's not so much that I'm a capitalist, it's that I don't like socialism and I don't think it works well. Nonetheless, I'm not so hardcore that I bash other people's, opinions. And if you like socialism, then so be it. But I'm pretty sure that this next story is not what people that created food stamps had in mind. I know there's good intentions there for people that are unemployed, people that are below certain levels of income, people that are maybe lost their job, down and out, and have no other way of making means. I think that's what the food stamps are for. I don't think how they're being used here in this story is what the creator of this program had in mind. Let's check it out. This comes from Detroit, Michigan. First of all, side note, Detroit, Michigan has been basically destroyed. And I'm just throwing it out there, by a socialist type group, the UAW, the United Auto Workers. Anybody who lives here in America or anywhere in the world that keeps kind of like up to date on these things will see that the unions, and I talk to people who are fans of unions, and they will admit that the unions have destroyed Detroit, destroyed the credibility of American-made automobiles, and it's very sad and unfortunate. I've been to Detroit, Michigan. There are parts of it that are very nice. I haven't been there in probably 15 or more years. 17 or 18 years ago, I believe it was. I've heard since then it has deteriorated quite a bit. I know there's still some nice neighborhoods. Nonetheless, the heart of America automobiles. And it's really sad to see a once great town of that magnitude in the economic turmoil that it's in. And a side note. Anyhow, getting back to the story, kind of humorous, I thought. Viagra and pornography are not staples on the government's food stamp list, but authorities say a Detroit liquor store supplied them during a series of illegal deals. Federal prosecutors filed fraud charges this week against 3 people who worked at Jefferson's Liquor Palace. Liquor Palace? That just that makes me laugh. Jefferson, I mean, I've heard of the liquor store. I've heard of, like here in the South, we have ABC Liquor Store. I've never heard of a liquor palace, but apparently here in Detroit, we have the Jefferson's Liquor Palace. The alleged scheme worked this way. Food stamp recipients would get cash from the store in exchange for swiping larger amounts off their electronic cards. The store would then be reimbursed by the U.S. Agriculture Department. And in some transaction, the government says the store provided informants Viagra, liquor, and pornography in exchange for swiping about $2,000 off food stamp cards. The government says fraud at the store topped $130,000 over 2.5 years. Last sentence, and the best sentence of all, the store is closed. I mean, seriously, what is going on here? I have to question the validity of these people that have the food stamp in the first place, because food stamp kind of makes it a priority on food because it's called a food stamp. But, it's for food, toiletries, beverages, not liquor, apparently here in Detroit. It's for the essentials to keep your house going. And basically, if they could use it for liquor and Viagra and pornography, maybe they really weren't qualified for it in the first place. Then again, maybe some people would say liquor, pornography, and Viagra are the essentials. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't look at it the right way. Maybe those are the essentials. Who knows? Anyhow, nonetheless, a scheme that was going on here, defrauding our government for $130,000. They've been caught and they've been shut down. So, a little amusing story there. goes from one story with alcohol to another one. Usually a lot of our humorous stories of things that happen, as I said about the train story, usually it involves alcohol, even if the story doesn't say. This one does mention alcohol. In fact, the guy had been on a night of binge drinking. This comes to us from Lawrence, Kansas. We actually have a couple listeners from the great state of Kansas, here in the center of our country. I've actually been through Kansas, and actually Lawrence, Kansas is, I believe, home of a great university there, known for its basketball program. Police in the Kansas college town of Lawrence say they have arrested a 21-year-old man who stole an ambulance to get home after a night of binge drinking. Lawrence Police Sergeant Susan Haddle says the ambulance crew parked it early Sunday while responding to a medical emergency in an area filled with bars and specialty shops. Haddle said the man was intoxicated and believed he had no other way home. He proceeded to lead police on a brief, low-speed chase. Excuse me. The man was arrested on charges of theft of the ambulance, as well as driving under the influence. The thing that kind of really caught my eye here, obviously, he was drunk. Shouldn't have been driving, therefore, given the driving under the influence violation. Charged with theft of the ambulance. I understand that's probably how the law is written. I don't think he set out to steal the ambulance. Obviously, he was just trying to get home. Nonetheless, criminal activity. But here's the part that really caught me off guard, that really stood out to me. The ambulance crew parked it while responding to a medical emergency. And he wasn't charged with anything here, but this is where I think really, obviously driving under the influence is bad, and he could put himself in danger as well as other people, especially when the ambulance is much larger than a regular vehicle, so it could really cause an issue. But, the thing is, how about the medical emergency? How important was this medical emergency? It could, and maybe it didn't lead to anything more serious, but what if it had been a medical emergency of someone who was in dire need to get to the hospital absolutely as soon as possible? This guy takes the ambulance, drives off. That could have caused some serious issues there. So they didn't go into that in the story, and apparently it wasn't really that big of a deal, or else I think he would have been charged with something more and been a little bit more trouble. Anyhow, we preach it all the time, Eric and I both. Don't drink and drive. Get a designated driver, or plan to stay where you are drinking. Call a cab, a taxi. Don't steal an ambulance and try to drive it in a drunken stupor. Not really the safest thing to do. I am very sorry for yawning so much. I have been on call for the past week, and when I am on call, I don't sleep well because I know that at any point in time that my pager can go off, and I may be woke up from my sleep, and then obviously I get several calls through the night which wake me up. So I've had a week of sleep deprivation, and I plan to make up for it tonight and this weekend. So the yawning, usually I save the yawns for when Eric's talking, and this occasional sip of water. Eric's not here, so here I go with another yawn and some more water. So here's something sometimes it's not always about being funny. Sometimes it's just a story that really catches our interest here. And whenever you have a title like this, Man Found Asleep in Closet with a Corpse, that catches my attention. This comes to us from the great Lone Star state of Texas, the city of Houston. A Houston man found asleep with a corpse inside a closet of a vacant home has been charged with misdemeanor drug offenses. Cody Jean Plant, 21, was discovered Sunday after the owner of the house reported hearing voices and seeing signs of forced entry at the home in Cypress, about 25 miles northwest of Houston. Authorities did not immediately release the dead man's identity. There were two guys in the closet. They appeared to be sleeping. One was snoring, and the other was deceased. It appeared that they were doing some sort of narcotics, at least the one that woke up. Plant was charged with 1 count of possession of a dangerous drug and 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance of more than 3 grams and less than 28 grams. All are punishable by up to 1 year in jail. It was not immediately clear what kind of drugs Plant allegedly had in his possession. Plant had also been charged with abuse of a corpse after prosecutors alleged he treated the body, and this is a quote, in an offensive manner. But that charge was dropped Monday morning during a probable cause hearing. I don't want to know what this offensive manner was. That sounds like it has the potential to be quite disturbing. Plant remained in the Harris County Jail in lieu of $15,000 bail. Officials did not know Monday night whether Plant had an attorney. Since I'm here by myself and I've got all, I can do what I want, do a little side rant here. Obviously, narcotics are bad. I don't have to tell you about the woes of cocaine and heroin and the grip that it puts on people's lives and the destruction and that it causes. But I'm not always sure that jail or prison, and Eric has made the statement before that he doesn't think it's the correct punishment for the crime committed. It's not that I think don't think it's the correct. Sometimes I don't think it's it should be the only thing. I'm not saying if you break the law that you shouldn't go to prison. However, if you are addicted, I have fortunately never done any kind of narcotic other than doctor prescribed for pain, and I try to limit my use there. From what I've read and the research I've done and the stories that I've heard, it's so gripping. It's so debilitating if you don't get it when your body is craving it. That while you may be in control, you're not truly in control because the desire and the need for that fix is so strong that you just do whatever you can do to get it. Throwing someone in jail for X amount of time and then sending them right back on the street, I don't really think it's doing the addict any favors. And I sure don't think it's doing society any favors. I actually know a couple of individuals who are former drug addicts, and by the grace of God, no longer are. And I've talked with them about this, and I've actually, seen news stories, television specials, and whatnot. I've never actually seen a recovering or former drug addict that said they were happy to have been that drug addict. I mean, people will talk about like, yay, let's go get stoned, or let's get trashed, or let's get high. Sometimes that's just a front they put up in front of their friends. But I've never seen, someone that used to be a drug addict and they've got free from that addiction say, oh, yeah, that was awesome. I wish I could go back and do it. Obviously, it's not the case, or they wouldn't have got the help they needed to get off the drugs in the first place. So it's such an overwhelming problem. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer or have a suggestion that would help. But I still don't think just throwing someone in jail for X amount of time is doing us or them any favors. These people need help. They really do. And unfortunately, it's a problem that's so broad that I really think it's such a daunting task that I don't think anybody would know where to start. But just a little social commentary there from the Incoherent Rambling Mind of Christopher. A couple weeks ago, we had a story about a young lady who her boyfriend had broke up with her. She didn't like it. So what did she do? She went to his apartment. She broke out the goldfish. There were 7 of them. She fried them up and started eating them. And by the time police got there, I think she had already eaten 3 or 4. And she wasn't actually charged with anything because, well, I don't think it's against the law to fry up and eat fish. Here's another story about love gone awry and fish. I think this gentleman is maybe a little psychologically unstable. A Portland man here in Portland, Oregon, who attacked his ex-girlfriend and impaled her pet fish this summer, has been sentenced to 2 years probation, psychological evaluation, and community service. Donald Earl Fight III, 27, pleaded guilty Tuesday to animal abuse and domestic violence assault. According to court records, Sarah Harris had broken up with Fight, but returned to her Portland apartment July 25th to find him lying on her bed, saying he wanted to get back together. When she tried to leave, he shoved her against the wall, grabbed her hair, and tossed her against the bathtub. She fled, but returned with an officer to find her fish, a bright purple betta named DeLorean, on the floor with a knife through it. He quickly admitted to killing the fish, telling police, "If she can't have me, then she can't have the fish." And then it goes on to say how he's mortified and ashamed and blah blah blah. I don't agree with the animal abuse charge. That's a stretch for me. I love animals. You know, our show mascot Bella, my pit bull. I love her a lot, and she's an awesome animal. And I'm an animal lover. There's no doubt about that. However, a betta fish who have very, 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 very short lifespans. I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure that there's any animal abuse going on there. Anyhow, this guy, if you look at the picture of him, not trying to be too judgmental, but he looks a little unstable. Looks just maybe a little bit crazy. As my Spanish friends would say, en la cabeza. Loco en la cabeza. Crazed, far away look in his eye. Well, politicians on both sides here in America, among the Democrats and Republicans, independents, libertarians, Green Party, this party, that party. Over in Great Britain, we're stuck in the 70s from same way everywhere. Politics and corruption go hand in hand. We all know that. I'm not saying that all politicians are bad. However, since the history of the world, there's always some kind of hubbub, some kind of scandal going on with politicians. And we've heard many times where maybe some parties have registered dead people to vote, and the dead people voted, things like that. Here's a story that comes from Alabama. It comes from Mobile, Alabama. Reynolds Smith Jr. was a stalwart, diehard Democrat voter. But the Alabama Democratic Party overlooked another fact when it appointed Smith to an interim party panel. He died in November. Dead over almost a year. Party executive Jim Spearman told the Press Register on Tuesday that the mistake was caused by outdated records. He said the party received Smith's name from a 2006 list of candidates for Mobile County Committee and then used a voter list to verify he was an active voter. The panel was charged with replacing the local party's executive committee. Now, this is going to sound slanted. Take it or leave it. This is just, well, it's my bully pulpit, so I say what I think. Regardless of your party affiliation, if you're liberal, conservative, anywhere in between, I don't care what anybody says. If this had been the Republican Party that had put a dead person on a panel, it would make front page news, and it would be all over the media. It would be on the nightly news. Just throwing that out there. A little bit of a double standard there because the party executive director simply says, "Oh, it was a mistake caused by outdated records." Well, and that's all fine and well. Everyone's like, "Oh, it was just an honest mistake." Well, the Republicans would have done it. They would have said, "Well, how can you make a mistake like that?" And well, you know, how can we trust you in office if your records are that outdated? Whatever. Just a little side rant from me. Nonetheless, this guy's dead. Obviously, can't hold any kind of committee or panel position. Here's a guy from Cortland, New York. We've all heard of chicken pot pie. Well, maybe this guy is just going to drop the chicken. Deputies say an upstate New York man has been charged with evidence tampering after he was busted for growing marijuana and then tried to eat the evidence. A little side note here, if you've ever seen the movie Super Troopers, you'll know a scene towards the beginning of the movie where a young man eats marijuana, and it's a quite funny scene. If you haven't seen it, and you don't mind a little goofy, off-the-wall humor, go watch it, Super Troopers. Broken Lizard, a comedy troupe, I believe. Anyhow, you'll enjoy it. It's a cute movie. Here's a quote from Douglas Adams, shared to me from Stuck in the 70s. Says, anyone who is capable of getting themselves made president should on no account be allowed to do the job. That is a great quote. Wow. And this sums up Stuck in the 70s feelings on politicians. Well, you know what? I'm with you there, Stuck in the 70s. It's always been a crooked profession, but over the past 10, 15 years, it's just really been bad, and it's kind of disheartening. But that's a great, I'm going to read that again. Anyone who is capable of getting themselves made president should on no account be allowed to do the job. That is a brilliant quote, and I have to agree. Anyhow, Super Troopers. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a cute movie. Jeremy Willer and his father, William Willer, were arrested Sunday night after deputies said they found 116 plants growing in the son's home. Deputies said Jeremy Willer tried to eat some of the plants while being booked. If he had 116 plants, I don't think he was going to have time enough to eat all of that while he was actually being booked. I think it's a little too late there. The 29-year-old was also charged with resisting arrest. His 59-year-old father was charged with unlawful possession of marijuana and unlawfully growing the drug. Both were released on tickets to appear in court at a later date. Deputies didn't know whether the men had lawyers. So I guess if you're going to eat your pot to try to hide it, maybe you should eat it before you're arrested, before you're being booked. Let's see here. We got about 10 minutes remaining. I'm going to save one story for the last that I find to be rather amusing. But here is a story. A young man trying to be the world's shortest man. This comes to us from Kathmandu, Nepal. Now that he's all grown up, 18-year-old, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, we'll call him Magar, of Nepal, wants the world to know just how tiny he is. Magar, who stands 22 inches tall, has been waiting 4 years for his chance to take the title of the world's shortest person. On Thursday, a day after his birthday and becoming an adult, supporters mailed an application package to the Guinness World Record in London, seeking to stake his place in the record book. Magar's family initially filed a claim when he was just 14, but it was rejected since he was not an adult and there was a chance he might grow. They said it was not clear how long the process would take. When Magar applied 4 years ago, Guinness officials said he would need to be examined by a doctor to confirm he had stopped growing. The current record is being held by a 21-year-old He Pingping of China, who is 29 inches tall. So this guy is 7 inches shorter. I've got a picture of him here. He is standing on the seat where other people are sitting, and he's still shorter than what appears to be about a 10-year-old child. I mean, it almost looks like a doll. He's only 22 inches tall. It's kind of a little bit unsettling, to be honest with you. No offense to him. Anyhow, 22 inches, that gets my attention right there. Especially when I'm 6'6", so that makes me 78 inches tall. And for our last story of the evening, this is funny and kind of sad at the same time. A lottery winner causes a riot at Ohio coat store. This comes to us from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm going to read this story in its entirety because I think it deserves it. A woman being driven around in a rented limousine pulled up at a coat store and announced she had won the lottery and would pay for everyone's purchases, police said. But it ended up causing a riot when customers realized it was a hoax. Angry customers threw merchandise around and looted, leaving the store looking as though a hurricane had passed through it. Linda Brown was arrested Tuesday after an hours-long shopping spree that began when she hired a stretch Hummer limousine to drop her off at Burlington Coat Factory. She walked to a cash register and loudly announced she had won the lottery and would pay for each purchased merchandise up to $500. Well, of course people like to hear that, police said. Apparently they were in line calling relatives who were not at the store and told them to come. People flooded the registers as cashiers began ringing up purchase after purchase, but Brown had not yet paid the bill. At least 500 people filled the aisles and another 1,000 people were outside trying to get in. That already, you can tell, is a riot in the making. She was telling people she won $1.5 million, but it ends up she didn't win anything. She had absolutely no money to pay. About an hour later, Brown had the limousine driver take her to a bank to withdraw money, but she returned empty-handed. By then, the store employees had called in 24 police officers to handle the crowds. Shopper Candace Jordan had said she told Brown she didn't need clothes, she needed help paying rent. She said, "How much is it?" Jordan told the television reporter, and she promptly wrote a check for the amount right then and there on the spot. By the time employees realized Brown didn't have any cash to pay, she had already taken off in the limo. That's when things got completely out of control. Angry customers realizing they weren't getting free coats, began throwing merchandise on the floor and grabbing clothes without paying for them. Everybody was like, hey, I still want my free stuff, and that just started a riot. It looks like Hurricane Katrina went through the store. Police said they have no way of tracking down customers who stole items and fled, but they're reviewing surveillance video. When the limousine driver realized he wasn't going to be paid the $900 Brown owed him for the day's rental, he turned her into the police. Good for him. Brown, 44, was arrested on 3 outstanding warrants for aggravated menacing, misuse of a 911 system, and causing false alarms. She was jailed late Wednesday, but no charges have been filed against her related to the coat store chaos, pending a mental health evaluation. I think that's a good place to start. Police said they didn't know if Brown had a lawyer, no telephone was listed under her name, and no one answered repeated calls at the jail. A spokesman for Burlington Coat Factory, which is based in Burlington, New Jersey, has more than 300 stores across the country, said late Wednesday she couldn't comment on the incident. We have a listener that says that's a great practical joke. They must try it sometime. I was thinking that as well, except for the part where it caused such melee and confusion and looting and rioting. So when I read it the first time, I was laughing quite a bit. Get it out of my system because I wanted to be able to read it without laughing, but that is quite funny and sad at the same time. Shame on the people that started looting and rioting. I mean, I understand they thought they were going to be getting something for free, but when they found out it was no longer the case, the looting and rioting, that just was against the store, and the store wasn't at fault here. It was this apparent crazy lady who likes pulling stunts like this. And the limo driver, I've only rented a limousine a few times in my life. Each time, well, I had to hold the limousine with a credit card, so either she did that or he just took her on her word. Anyhow, funny story here from Columbus, Ohio. Eric's home state, I might throw out there. So even though it made us laugh, I'm still going to give this lady our Sheep Award just because she set off a riot and looting. When rioting and looting, not a good thing. So there we have it. Here a quick word from our unofficial sponsor.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
Hop around. No one's free to see the world.
I don't know why Hub Around commercials, why I find them so amusing, but if you've ever seen it on television, they are quite hilarious. Well, folks, that's it. That's all the stories I have for today. I want to thank Stuck in the 70s, our official Incoherent Ramblings United Sport, hanging out with us, unwinding. Hope you have a good night's sleep and a good day tomorrow and a good weekend. We thank our other live listeners we have with us today. Thank you, Eric, for calling in. And for all of those who don't listen live and download it, thank you for your loyalty and support. Our fan base is growing and our downloads are growing, and we really, truly do appreciate it. Next week, I may be flying solo again. If Eric's busy, Eric may be here. I don't know. Nonetheless, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.